Good evening, everyone. We can and we will. I can and I will. You can and you will. Now, what is it that I'm talking about? Well, the gospel makes it very, very clear. We'll get to that in just a moment. Let's do some review, some very important weeks that we've had in the past couple. 2 weeks ago, we celebrated the Divine Mercy Sunday. I hope every single Catholic knows John 20, John chapter 20. That's where, in the Scriptures, in the revelation of Jesus Christ, captures where he gave to the apostles the power to forgive sins. And we put it in this way: make the call. Each one of us should make the call. We looked at it from a vertical standpoint and also horizontal. Vertical is the gift that he gives us in the sacrament of reconciliation and penance. It's based on the horizontal. That is to say, he meets us in our humanity. We need, for ourselves, to exercise courage and humility and say, when we realize that we are when we're wrong, okay? So you admit to yourself, I was wrong. Now, it's one thing to be able to admit to yourself, I was wrong. Now it's another thing to go to that person and to have a conversation, to exercise courage and humility and do that. Now you're reconciling, you're restoring the relationship. Or you can pretend that it never happened. Just pretend. That's kind of nice, huh? Well, I gave the example of a couple weeks ago we had the robocalls going out. There were a lot of them. They were garbled. Finally, we got it cleared up. But it was enough to drive at least one parishioner insane. In fact, they called the school and they said, I want off the robocalls. In fact, I don't like Father Dennis. I haven't liked him since he got here, and I am not coming to church until he leaves. All right, so principal let me know that. I said, I feel bad. I feel bad. I must have done something wrong, or I didn't do something that I should have. I feel bad. And it's good, and it's right that I feel bad. And that's it. I think I'll continue to move on. And, that's enough for me. I mean, it's good for me. I know that I did it wrong. Now I can just move forward. Well, wouldn't be a good pastor if that's the way it is. And that's a good and relevant analogy for us and our sin and making a good confession. So I asked for the phone number. I picked up the phone. Not an easy call to make, by the way. But I called the person, had a conversation about 30 minutes. We reconciled. I'm going over to their house for dinner. All right, so it doesn't always end that way. But regardless, we should make the phone call. I will say that more than likely, in the sacrament of reconciliation and penance, it will end with a reconciliation. Make the call. Now, last week, we were really encouraged to receive the reaffirmation of our call. We heard Peter, or actually we heard a particular portion of the experience here where Peter was being reaffirmed in his call. But we can think about the experience where Jesus came to Peter and he said, you are Peter. And upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of the netherworld shall not prevail against it. I give you the keys of the kingdom. What you bind on earth is bound in heaven. What you loose on earth is loosed in heaven. So he elevates him above all the other apostles. And he gives him an office that's specifically to Peter. It's specific just to him. Now, Peter blows it big time. When Jesus needs him the most, he denies that he even knows him. Think about somebody that needed you in a pressure situation. And then, instead of the way that you acted, think about just denying that you even know them. Refuse to even pick up the phone when you knew that they were calling. When they were there saying, please, you just walked away. Yeah, that's what Peter did to Jesus. Now, that's a pretty big blockbuster with regards to his call in his life. And what does Jesus do? Now, I guess if I was in charge, I would have gotten rid of Peter, and I'd have made John the guy. John was there at the crucifixion. But it's not what Jesus did, and it's not what he does with us as well. And that's a good thing. It's good I'm not in charge. He reaffirms the call, and he does it 3 times so that he knows it's crystal clear. Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. Well, feed my sheep. Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. Tend my sheep. Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. And feed my sheep. 3 different times, he reaffirms the call of the elevation above the other apostles, even in the face of the fact that he completely denied him. Now, he repented. He thoroughly repented. But still, gives me some encouragement. And I hope it gives you some encouragement that as God calls you and you advance down the path of greatness that He's moving you, that when you make some mistakes, and maybe hopefully they're smaller mistakes, but maybe you made some blockbusters, He's going to reaffirm that call if you're open to it. Now, what is this that we're talking about this week? You can and you will. I can and I will. We can and we will. Jesus says, my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. So there it is. You might say, well, Father, I'm not quite sure I've ever heard God speak to me. Well, He speaks to us in a number of ways. Through the natural light of reason, through somebody in our life that we deeply respect, through certain circumstances in our life. In a fundamental way, though, that brings all those together, He speaks to us in a perceived need. In other words, we look out and we see there is a need. With that, something in us, again, natural light of reason, could be somebody there, could be circumstances, it could be the supernatural light of faith that impels us from within that says, I can meet that need. Is that what you're calling me to do, Lord? Are you calling me to step forward and to do this? So in the grade school, we're unfolding the revelation of Jesus Christ through the lens of Catholic social teaching. So there are 7 pillars to Catholic social teaching. The 2 that I'm bringing up today are subsidiarity and solidarity. So the students that are out there, they would know and they'll be able to explain to you that solidarity, we look at it in this way. Ask plus listen equals shoes. In other words, if you're willing to ask somebody what's going on in their life, really listen, not just, yeah. Does that sound familiar? Some spouses? Yeah? All right. So, really listen. Listen to them. Now you know what it's like to be in their shoes. And when you know what it's like to walk in somebody else's shoes, there's a sense of solidarity with them. The other element is subsidiarity. Subsidiarity, in its clearest sense, the right decisions are made at the right levels. But what that also asks in the most simple way is, what can you do? And here's where it all comes together. What can you do? What can I do? Do I have a sense of being one with this person who is in need? Do I realize that I can do something? So we have a fourth grader. Her name's Lucia. And, just talking with her at Mass, I learned that she had understood that there was a need at Children's Hospital. If you've ever gone to Children's Hospital and you have seen children truly suffering, there's a sense of solidarity there. When you see a child that just doesn't understand, but is really suffering, you're impelled. And that moved her. And she said, I can do something. And so she solicited funds. She's raised a couple $100. She's buying materials. She's going to make her own stuffed animals, because she saw that a child in pain gets some sort of comfort when they're holding on to a stuffed animal. What kind of difference, seriously, what kind of difference can a fourth grader make? Well, this one's making a difference. By the way, she's right over there. Hi, Lucia. The Knights of Columbus in this area. So it's a conglomerate of St. Joe's, St. Paul's, Sacred Heart of Mary, and other places. A few of the guys learned that, I believe it was a council in Morgantown or somewhere around that area, that they had raised some funds to get an ultrasound machine. And this is to help those in pregnancy problem centers, where if they have a situation like this and they can actually see their child, that the statistics show that their likelihood of getting an abortion plummets. Now, this was tens of thousands of dollars in order to get this machine. There were a few guys that realized, I can't do this on my own, but I bet I can encourage our group to take this on. They saw a need, and they were impelled from within. And they knew their brother knights. And it didn't take much to really stir it into a fervor. And before we knew it, we had the funds raised. And they went out, and when they found a place over in Steubenville, and now there's a pregnancy problem center over there that's going to have an ultrasound machine. How many human lives will be saved because one or two guys said, we can do this. There's a need there, and stirred a group. It's a shame that it happens periodically. It's a travesty, and it's devastating. This week we had another shooting in Denver. You know, you hope that you hear the voice of God, you see a need, you respond to it. And the definition of freedom is not merely the ability to choose, but it's the ability to choose the good. So if I come here and I've got two places and I quickly go this way because this is the good, there's no vacillation here. Oh, I'm tempted, I should go this way. Freedom is to walk here and immediately choose the good. Freedom happens through constant choices for the good, so that it becomes a habit of good and now a virtue. I hope and I pray that as I'm trying to hear and recognize the voice of God in my life and respond to it, because he says, hear my voice and follow me, is the gospel. I hope that because I'm cultivating this sense of virtue, that if I ever have to lay down my life, if there's ever a moment where the need is there, that I'll run to it. That's Kendrick Castillo, the 18-year-old boy who, when the weapons were brandished, he didn't run in the opposite direction. He ran right towards them. And he paid the ultimate price. But you know, what a way to go in laying down your life for the needs of others. Hearing the voice of God, we can. It's in seeing a need. Following the Lord, we can. When we realize, I can do this, and we do it.